What's poppin', gamers? If I sound a little bit weird, it is just because I am kinda getting over a cold, so I apologize for that, but I just really wanted to have a bit of a building discussion with you guys about some blocks that I feel are very underrated. As I'm sure a lot of you guys are, I'm a big fan of the Minecraft YouTube scene, and I do watch a lot of other Minecraft content creators. So as you can imagine, I'm seeing a whole lot of really amazing builds being constructed every now and again, and it's very true that there are some materials that are very oftenly used in a lot of these builds, and some other ones that are just not. I've got 9 for you guys. We're going to be going from the least underrated to the most underrated in my opinion, and without further ado, let's get right into it. First up on our list is the dried kelp block. Now I know this block doesn't really get used very often. People more often than not use it as a smelting ingredient and not something you would actually build with, but that's where the problem lies, because this block is actually really cool. In particular, this stripe pattern that we have on the top and the sides here, as well as the bottom. The dark desaturated green color goes very well with bricks, and this little stripe here actually matches the color of the grout kinda well. It works surprisingly well as an interior wallpaper. Like I'm saying, it works very well with brick, but it also goes very well with white textures. You can see the white glass and the white terracotta around me. It's a little bit tacky, but I think it can actually fit very well inside these cozy interior spaces. And if you'd like to use it as a detail block, you can do that as well. You can see here how it looks like a bundle of trash, or maybe, I don't know, a bag of leaves or something like that. Kind of a little diorama of like a city alleyway or something cyberpunky or gothic. And we got these kelp blocks kind of just piling up in the street here like bits of trash and whatnot. And yeah, if you don't have very many kelp blocks or you want to use them as detail, here's a great way of doing that. Next up on our list is dead coral. Here's the thing about coral, right? You can see we've got these 5 different versions that I have in my hotbar here. However, when the coral blocks become dead, we have these really interesting gray textures. I think my favorite of the bunch definitely has to be the brain coral. That's the one with these huge like dark spots in it right here. It's no secret that people use gray blocks in their builds all the time. But despite that, you almost never see dead coral, and I mean, look how well it can blend in with the other gray textures. In particular, I want to highlight how well the dead coral goes with the gravel, the acacia wood, and the tuff. Something about these textures, I think they just have a little bit of a warmer hue, but I think they go really well together. If you guys remember my first 3 ways to build video on Tudor houses, I showed off this insane Tudor house in front of me right here, but you'll notice the gray kind of like tile pathway in front of this house uses the brain coral alongside the gravel and andesite and some cobblestone. I think this texture pattern is not only really cool, but you just don't see it. And I get it, you know, coral is a little bit hard to farm a lot of. You need to get one specific kind of coral. You can't make farms for it. Once you find a coral reef, I'm sure you could find plenty of coral, more than enough to make a big open paved space like this one right here. This block is just cool. Next up, I want to talk about the azalea. Now, I'm not talking about the azalea leaves or anything, or the azalea tree. I'm talking about specifically the azalea bush. There are some other ways you can use this that people aren't really doing, which I really do think people should be doing more of. If I put it down at the same level as the grass, you can see it's a little bit lighter, but if I pair it with a few more green textures, you can see we can create this really cool little gradient here. Of course, this is going to be biome dependent depending on your biome for the grass block, but all the others blend together incredibly well. We got the moss, we got the green concrete powder, and of course we got the azalea. One thing I've used azalea for in the past, which I still really like to do, is to kind of use it as a bit of a liner block between grass and sand here. You can see we got ourselves a little bit of a beach. That sheep is freaking out, probably because he's standing on top of an azalea. Excuse me, buddy. Okay. Have fun over there. But yeah, you can see how we're using this gradient along the ground. It's not perfect. There is definitely still a noticeable color change right here. Minecraft is a little bit limiting in that way, but I think having this little bit of gradient really helps ease this otherwise very sharp transition between grass and sand. I'm sure you all know the trick of putting a moss block on top of the azalea to create a funny little bush. And of course, the one about putting azalea in a pot below a moss block to create an even funnier looking bush. But have you ever tried alternating moss and azalea like this to create some funny little hedgerows? maybe you haven't. And while we're talking about funny little decorative plant items, why don't we talk about mangrove roots? These guys are really interesting because we finally have a block that could be used as a leaf that's not like a vibrant green, you know? Whether it's azalea or a spruce or jungle or whatever, all of our previous leaf blocks have always been green, and now we have something that, of course, is not a leaf block, but it can be used as a leaf block very well. That's a very dark brown. If we take a quick look at the world from my random hardcore series, you can see how I've used the mangrove roots to kind of make it look like this old log fallen off of this giant tree is like decomposing and wasting away underwater here. You can see how it blends very nicely with the dark oak and overall just looks like little strands of organic matter are floating off of this bit of log. It's pretty neat. Number 5 is blast furnaces. Now I know these blocks are a little bit expensive, but look at this top texture. This is so cool right here. This is such an amazing texture. I mean, yeah, I get it. Building with blast furnaces is a little bit weird, but come on, people need to use this more. You can rotate this in 2 different directions. I mean, you can create like a really cool tile pattern just with the blast furnace like this. Something like this would make for an awesome floor. And of course, it has a dark gray color, which means it's going to work with basalt, it's going to work with deep slate, it's going to work with all of these really common building materials. Very cool front texture, which is very industrial and steampunky looking. Gonna look great with copper, gonna look great with deep slate, gonna look great with blackstone, and it can even become a light block if of course you power it by, you know, smelting something inside it, or if you have access to commands like I do in my creative world here, you can run the following command to create a blast furnace that is always lit. This is gonna be giving off light permanently, just like any other light block. Number 4 on our list is the mushroom stem behind me right here. This smooth, desaturated, off-white texture is really lovely. One of my favorite wall designs I've ever seen in this entire game is using the stripped dark oak with the mushroom stem as like a wallpaper. You can even put down some beehives or some oak on the floor, and you've got this vaguely like Eastern Japanese looking style room design, which I think is really cool. Like seriously, look how well this all comes together. It's awesome. These mushroom stem blocks are a little bit annoying to farm. Of course, you need to have silk touch in the first place, but then of course when you're farming mushrooms, you only get like 6 or 7 per mushroom, which is not really that great. But when you see how well it goes together with dark oak, spruce, and even jungle wood if you really want to, in particular the stripped variety, you would agree with me that this block is definitely underrated. Next up on our list, number 3, is a little bit of a weird one. I'm actually talking about soul soil. If I had to take a bet, I would say you probably never used this block in any of your builds. Or if you have, it was very infrequently. But this block is actually quite cool. Let me just bring some into the overworld real quick. There aren't very many really dark brown blocks in Minecraft. You know, we got a lot of the regular kind of chocolatey lighter browns, and of course we have a lot of black blocks, but we don't have a lot that goes right in the middle. You can have this really cool light brown to dark brown gradient with the soul soil here. Of course, it can also kind of look like a pile of poo if you want to use that in like a pigsty or something weird like that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. The texture is just really smooth, unlike soul sand, which of course is all rough and raggedy and slows you down when you walk on it and all that, and it's just an annoying block. But soul soil, on the other hand, is quite nice, and I really wish people, myself included, would use it more often. Number 2, white terracotta. This block is really nice. It's definitely got an oddly warm color to it. That's just the nature of all the terracotta blocks. They're all kind of stained a little bit of like an orangey, pinkish kind of color, and you know, of course the white terracotta is no exception. But something about this texture I just think has insane amounts of potential. I want to highlight something really cool about white terracotta and brick. On first glance, you can see that these two go together very well, but I think it's because the grout color here actually looks pretty similar to the white terracotta color. It's a little bit darker, might actually go a little bit better with like light gray terracotta or something like that, but I think light gray terracotta is a little bit too dark. One of the first block palettes that I was truly amazed by is this one right here, the white terracotta, brick, jungle leaves, and shroom lights. Something about this is just so warm and cozy and inviting. The white terracotta really just is a fantastic backdrop texture to all of this, but also to plenty of other block palettes as well. On top of that, not only does this color of terracotta generate naturally in the world in the mesa biomes, but of course white dye is one of the easiest dye colors to obtain, which makes this form of terracotta one of the easiest to obtain large quantities of. Good for all of these survival builders out there. And last but definitely not least, number 1 on our list, the most underrated building block in Minecraft, in my opinion, the brown mushroom block. Look at it. Oh, it's beautiful. First of all, this color is amazing. It's amazing for a lot of the same reasons I like the mushroom stem, and of course I like the different kinds of terracotta. Like I've been saying before, it's desaturated, it's not very messy, it's going to go great as a backdrop texture, which is of course phenomenal in building. It is significantly easier to farm in survival than the mushroom stem. Of course, you still need silk touch on your axe in order to get these guys, but every time you grow a brown mushroom, you're gonna get like half a stack of these almost, I think. Like, you can really farm up an insane amount of these, and if you don't want all of them, of course you can just compost the extra ones into bone meal. But as for its applications in building, well, there is a lot, but first of all, the one I like the most is actually using it with mud. You can see right here I've got it with the mud bricks and the packed mud. I'm just throwing together whatever. This is not a good texture pattern by any means, but you can see it blends together so well. If you can imagine the mud bricks as like a new footpath, something that hasn't been worn down by years and years of foot traffic, and then the packed mud is maybe, I don't know, a few years down the road, it's been stomped on a lot, it's been worn out and deformed, and then finally, after years and years of use and erosion, you wear down these bricks into a flat surface, and that's what the mushroom block looks like. This block combination is amazing, and I need to use it more, and you need to use it more, and basically everybody needs to use it more. On top of all of this, you can also use brown mushroom blocks with the brown concrete powder and the coarse dirt, which means you can use it in pathways too. Maybe you've got a pathway running through a muddy jungle or a swamp or something, and you don't just want dirt, but you want mud as well. Well, there you're going to be using the mud bricks, you're going to be using the brown mushroom block, as well as stuff like the brown concrete powder. It's going to come together really nicely. And of course, we're ignoring the most obvious use for the brown mushroom, which is of course building your own mushrooms. I'm certainly doing a whole lot of that in my random hardcore world, which I'm sure some of you guys are already aware of. But yeah, I've really come to love this block so much through using it in my hardcore world, and I really do hope that more of you guys take the opportunity to use it in your own worlds, because it is a really fantastic block. This, in my opinion, is the most underrated block in all of Minecraft. And there you have it, guys, my 9 picks for the most underrated building blocks in Minecraft. If you had any different ones in mind, or you agree or disagree with my opinions, please do let me know down in the comments below, and I really do hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, a like on the video would be very much appreciated, and if you're not subscribed, consider doing that as well. Thank you very much. Until next time, my dudes, this has been Leon, and I will see you all in the next Minecraft building block, whatever you want to call it, block discussion video. I don't know, maybe there'll be more of these, we'll see. Take care, my friends.